So we've got some absolutely huge news to go over today. It looks like Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be getting a massive rehaul in the form of what I would call Cyberpunk 2077 2.0. You guys know that No Man's Sky went through a similar rehaul of the game, and they basically re-released the entire game. It appears that's going to be happening with Cyberpunk 2077. So we're going to go over this right now and dive into all the details. Welcome back. Overworld Games here. Hope you're doing good. Finally, it's 2021. I hope this year is a lot better for all of us. But yeah, this comes from an anonymous source at CD Projekt RED. So remember, take this as a rumor. But let's dive in. It says this. This is still very hush-hush, but I'm fed up with the crap, so I'll disclose a few details. CD Projekt RED hurt themselves to keep investors safe and sound. Now devs are hearing plans of a No Man's Sky style comeback due to late June. The first two patches should come out mid-March, despite what's being said by top execs. There will be major departures from the studio in the coming months. Dev morale is at an all-time down, and Sony is roasting our butts due to the gigantic volume of refund requests. There will be a meeting today with Sony execs to figure out a way to compensate players threatening with legal action. Now, Sony Japan is especially furious. More to come in the next couple weeks. Fear feels terrible, man. There's no finger pointing as of now. Word on memos are coming from the top. The directors and senior devs are taking the flak for the team in what I'd call an honorable move. Just so you know, we still joke about a quest that got rewritten, more than a dozen times because a certain top dog wasn't feeling it. It ended up being cut from the final product and should come out at a later DLC next year. There's people that get hired for whatever reason and stay in the company due to being trusted by the top dogs. A good chunk of code is being scrapped and rewritten from scratch. The intended game might be ready by June 2021. So it looks like they're aiming for a June 2021 for this big rehaul for Cyberpunk 2077. Now, what we do know officially is that they are hoping to release patches in January and February, but you know, things are shaky. Like even in their investor calls, they are saying that they don't really know what's going on with DLC until they fix the game. Their first priority is fixing the game. DLC and everything comes after that. So yeah, you know, this could be a part of fixing the game, is basically doing a re-release. And they're going to have to do that anyway for the PS4 version and the Xbox One version. I would think they would have to go in and really rework those systems for sure. So why not rework a lot of the other systems on the next-gen consoles and just re-release the game. All right, let's keep going here as we read this. It goes on to say right here, that's already done and ready since February. It didn't get implemented because of a major UI bug that is still present in the retail copies. If you open up your .dat files, you'll find a lot of scrapped content still in there. If you want a refund, please ask for it. It positively impacts us as devs because we've warned the leads a million times about that kind of crap. Most cosmetic overhauls should be ready by the second big update, hopefully. The update that is due in June will sort out all the bugs. The code for the PS4 and Xbox One is getting scrapped and done separately. Now, PS5's code is an improvement on the PC due to the awesome dev kit Sony put together for this gen. So yeah, to say that the code is completely scrapped kind of baffles me right there. But yeah, I would imagine that they would have to really rework the system for the PS4 and Xbox One so they can avoid some legal issues. Now, he goes on to say this: you'd be amazed by how much is already done. That cut content so people finish the main quest talk was all BS. Most apartments with closed locked indication, used to be lootable. We've scrapped 50,000 plus lines of dialogue, and I believe this June update will bring a whole lot of cut content back into the game. Address the cut content as well. If they see that you guys are asking for crap to be put back into the game, we might actually make the game we intended back in 2018. There used to be a huge underground part of the city that the public never got to see because it looked ugly to the execs. It was effing awesome and felt like the Malkavian Norsifa Path on Vampire of the Masquerade. So that's really interesting because a lot of you guys notice that there are abilities that are completely useless in Cyberpunk 2077, especially some abilities tied to breathing underwater forever and that sort of thing. You would think accessing the underground segments of the city would require you to perhaps go underwater or go into these canal locations. So yeah, that could actually be legit right there. Now it says this right here. I don't want to hate on Keanu, but effing hell, our original Johnny was way cooler and sounded like a maniac. Think Fall Test on crack. I don't appreciate his acting either. Wow. But he's a very nice man. Walked up to us personally to greet us on the first day and took time to personally thank us one by one when they wrapped up recording. And that's Keanu. He's just a nice guy. And that's one of the reasons why I personally like him. Now it says this, the word is that his fee was actually manageable and the need for star talent came from outside CD Projekt RED. The execs complied because who the effing knows, it sucks. Our original Johnny was heavily inspired by David Hayter's Solid Snake from the first Metal Gear Solid and believe it or not, Cillian Murphy. So that's really interesting. I've been hearing that rumor as well that adding Keanu Reeves into the game really was rough on the development process, especially from 2018 onward. Now, it goes on to say this, there was a whole AI routine with minor gang violence in those areas, stuff you could sit back and watch unfold or directly influence. There was also a lot of drug use with kids that eventually got cut due to inside censorship. There were priests and Hare Krishna side arcs that got cut due to censorship. Miles wrote a side quest where a Max Tech officer offed himself. Now, I don't want to get into these details because this might actually end up in the game. I don't know. I don't want to do spoilers here. It says, might sound weird, but the disaster launch was actually something beneficial from our perspective. A cold shower sets priorities straight, and so we're able to resume our work on what was originally intended without having those efforts breathing down our necks to publish. I believe it was due to miscommunication and leads not setting goals like they should. The game was jumbled together for 2019's E3. The last dev comp before the scrap was 160 gigabytes alone. There should be some whistleblowing in the coming weeks if they step down. I suppose that's what they meant. Yeah, so we'll be looking most likely at Bloomberg and Jason Schreier for that information. We'll see what he can dig up because he's usually the big investigator. All right, now let's keep going. We're going to be talking about the Series X right now. It says, Series X was a mere rewrite of code and load orders. Next-gen's architecture is actually very good for ports. It's company policy to release when a game runs without debug hitches, and the reason why it does baffle me and is the reason why I started this thread. It's a mix of hubris and deep incompetence from some big names around here. I'm going home for the holidays and really thinking about my friends who will be in the office for the next couple of months, redoing scrapped work without being able to say, I effing told you this is your fault, boss. Next E3 will be bizarre for CD Projekt RED, I bet. We scrapped 2 whole arcs because of the mission cleaned a save due to a bug with character placement. We've also scrapped a big portion of the underground and sewers because of bugs. Night City had 3 different types of cabs besides Villefort, and drivers would hold whole conversations and give quests. That had to also be scrapped. Interesting. Now, what about police pathfinding? It says, police pathfinding script worked wonderfully until somebody screwed the pooch. All I know is it is already being fixed. It was a major oversight, of course. Now, Morgan Blackhand's story and a nod to the corporate wars. The DLCs will add a lot to the crazy and cool ideas Mike gave us when we began briefing the project. You guys should have the complete game by the end of next year. If everything goes well, I really got to go now. Take care. So yeah, the game was butchered. Yeah, it had a terrible launch, of course. But yeah, there is the anonymous source talking about what potentially could be coming to Cyberpunk 2077 in the form of what would be a massive rehaul, much like No Man's Sky did receive. Honestly, I'm expecting this. I do think that this will be happening just because they have seen the success with No Man's Sky, and that was a big turnaround, and people love and adore No Man's Sky and compliment it all the time now than before, and they really turned that franchise around big time in a big way, and it was super impressive what they were able to implement. So yeah, you know what, I think that they will probably do this with Cyberpunk 2077. I think it's also correct to expect certain leaders to depart the company and leave the company over the next few months. They'll try to do it quietly, but I'm sure it will make news, of course. They will also probably try to counter people leaving the company with good news. So they're going to try to do some PR with Cyberpunk 2077 in the very near future, I would imagine. But with the patches, again, they said in this anonymous source here that it would be March would be the big patch. You know, I would not be surprised considering everything that's happened. With Battlefront 2, when that released, there was a massive slowdown with everything post-launch. It was terrible. And they had so many delayed content and canceled content. And it just hurt the game's, progress getting things out quickly. So I expect to see a slowdown with the DLCs here. Because you guys have even agreed out in the comment section that you would like to see the game fixed. And mentioning comments, guess what time it is? It's time for top comments. So let's do this. Go to my previous video here, which was about a dev declaring 2020 the worst year of his life and how fans reacted, and also how the free DLC isn't going to be coming out anytime soon. So let's get into this. The first comment comes from Mega Minson something. He says, I honestly want the option to customize the cosmetics of my cybernetics, make my character look even more cyborgish and badass. That would be really cool. I totally agree. Kuma says, I prefer they fix the game before they add more stuff. A lot of agreement right there. Now Blurpy24 says, the Silverhand story should have been DLC. It seems like a lot of you guys wanted more focus on your character over Johnny Silverhand. Now, this one says here, I want to see the bouncer girl from Lizzie's Bar as a dating option. Tons of agreement on that one. And then Andrew says, I said it way back, getting Keanu was a big mistake. Everything about the story was about Johnny. Linear story. They did not start the story 7 years ago. This was all about Johnny. I'm sorry, but there's too much missing in the game. All I wanted was an RPG. Wow. It seems like a lot of you guys are noticing that about Johnny Silverhand. And Max says the Johnny Silverhand questline should have been a side quest to the main quest. So they announced that, it was going to be where Johnny Silverhand was basically a co-protagonist. Yikes. So it seems like a lot of you guys don't care for that. Let's see. Here. Bra says, I'm sure if they released the game with everything that was supposed to be in it, I'm sure people would be more forgiving of bugs and crashes, especially since they threw out some hot fixes a few days to a week or so after release. I have to admit they have been pretty good about the updates so far. We'll see what they do in 2021. We got some more top comments here. Econ Record says, I want an extension to the relationship so they can be maintained throughout the entirety of the game like GTA San Andreas, but better. David says, not gonna lie, 2021 is definitely the year I trust nobody from the gaming industry as far as I can throw a piano. One of the most upvoted comments right there. Yeah, so a lot of you have trust issues, and I don't blame you with a lot of these publishers and developers. It just seems endless, doesn't it? It really seems like no one is learning their lesson whatsoever. And it seems like, while there are bosses and CEOs and board members, it seems like to me these companies are making their investors have full control over everything, which is causing problems. They're allowing them to take control over specifically the release date when a game is not ready, and they need to stop doing that. They need to put their foot down and say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. This game is not ready. Deal with it. You're going to have to wait. That's my assessment to this whole situation. But thank you all so much for the love and support on the videos. As always, stay tuned here for more Cyberpunk 2077 news and updates. And I will see you all later. Take care.